Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, a show where we here at TTRP Guy demystify the DMing process by coming up with, normally, adventures, and monsters, and a new magic item live. But every now and again, we decide to, frankly, bite off a little bit more than we can chew. But that hasn't stopped us yet. And so today, for the first time since Galaxy Blaster, which was a little scattershot, but I still think one of our most fun IPs we've come up with, we're going to be trying to tackle a new world. Hopefully you remember Prospect, our first major project on stream. I don't know if I recommend you go back and watch those. Audio quality was a little lower, but
I do.
At some point, we'll publish a source book, and then you'll get that. And, you know, so sometime around the 2030s, you'll know everything there is to know about Prospect.
Several episodes are missing, so you'd be missing some pretty big context.
So for the first time in a very long time, we've decided to tackle a new IP, and like always, because the entire point of this is that we don't plan and prep what we're going to come up with. We do it live, because when you're at home prepping your next game, you're going to have to do that live too, and that's going to suck. And we're here to try to help you understand how at least we noodle around. All three of us have a concept for the world. Some of them full in-drama sentences. Others, I assume, 2 to 3 words. Perhaps one of them just says, what if the goblins were mountains? But we're about to find out.
Write that down.
Write that down. Write that down. Write that down. I am Ethan Kipp. I do a lot of our writing. Full name. I'm Ethan. I do a lot of our writing here. You can catch most of my stuff over on that end. To my right is the guy who makes the videos.
That's me. What's up? I do TikTok and YouTube videos. We just released a new video about why online D&D is better. Feel free to check it out after the stream, of course. And subscribe to the channel. Also, of course, share it with your friends and family.
And down below.
Spencer.
Hi, I'm Michael. I do some art and say funny stuff sometimes.
It's huge. Frankly, heart and soul of the company. Now, we're going to go around the table here, and I think we should just jump right in. Because when you're trying to make a whole world on stream and have it not be God's most boring Twitch/YouTube stream, you gotta pick up the pace. So, who wants to go first?
I think we should go in order.
Great.
Ethan, me, Michael.
My pitch is as follows. This world had a name once. Gone now. Lost to time. The Sun Eater came and took our light. And then the panic of men took the rest. And that's my pitch.
Huge. Huge.
Right. Can you hear what the last 2 or 3 words were?
The Sun Eater came and took our light. Then the panic of men took the rest.
Panic. Alright.
Oh, here's my big idea. Planet of the Apes.
Oh, it's better.
But instead of all of the apes, it's basically just anthropomorphic animals. Were they wizards' familiars that survived a cataclysm? Was it just a branch in the evolutionary line? I don't know. But it's animals, baby, and they're walking around. That's it.
Your pitch is Furryland?
It's Furryland, yeah.
Huge. I love it.
I don't know if you knew that, but I was going to pitch furries all along.
Alright. Heart's content. Mine is Primal Land, or as will say, Jurassic World. We're going back in time, baby. We're going way back to the dinosaurs. We are D&D-ifying Jurassic, Triassic, whatever period we're going to. We're starting spells into that period. We're turning weaponry into that period. We're making the creatures and classes into that period.
You two really mind. You guys really drift horse like.
We were close on that.
We're
You
real
guys really made it happen.
close.
So our pitches are.
He's going furries. I'm going scalies.
So,
All right.
hanging up the call. Bye, guys. It's been real. It's been fun. I'm actually gotta go.
That's it, yeah.
I have my letter of resignation is actually in the mail.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so our 3 options are prehistoric town, furry land, in the world that a name once gone now lost to time. The Sun Eater came and took our light. Then the panic of men took the rest. So those are our 3 options. Now, I have a conundrum here. Do I love mine? Yes, I do. did Spencer's first words make me think, what is Spencer saying right now? Why is he saying this on stream where there's evidence? Yes. And then he said maybe a wizard's familiar lives on in this place, and I was like, that's kind of tight. That's not bad. And then I was thinking about Dragonborn, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And then Michael hit us with the prehistoric Dungeons and Dragons fantasy where the magic is also kind of oonga boonga pilled.
I do hate to say it, I'm going with Michael's too. It was so cool. I do want to go back to my furry land at some point, but I gotta go with Michael's on this. We gotta go
The
with
fact that
Michael's.
Spencer took the time to say Michael's and his were good and had nothing to say about mine, I'm gonna remember forever. I'm gonna tattoo that on the inside of my eyelids.
Yours is a really cool like it's
good.
more amorphous. Like it's hard to
It's
think,
more
like-
amorphous than prehistoric town?
I might be using the word amorphous wrong.
Yeah, man, that can't be what you mean. All right.
It-
No. I've been outvoted, and I'm going to remember this forever.
You are also voting Michael's. Come on.
All right, so so I guess prehistoric would still work. The only thing we cannot say is Jurassic and then the word that we all want to follow that, because I do think that might be a trademarked IP of the Disney Corporation.
Oh yeah.
Or-
It is.
Or Warner Brothers. Who owns the Jurassic films? I don't know.
Universal.
Universal Studios, yeah.
Well, that's who owns the licensing rights to the theme parks. That doesn't necessarily answer my question, who's paying the bills these days.
I think the Bills too is
Oh,
Universal. I
Yeah,
believe
full
so.
Ownership. That's
Okay,
crazy.
so we need to dive right in here. We're going to the land of prehistoric fantasy. The magic existing implies magic has always been there, which implies that some idiot with a rock, if he is good enough with it, can do magic with that rock. And I love that. We're not going to have any wrought tools. So that is interesting.
Mhm.
The only place that I see friction is that this is not... It is difficult for me to say in good conscience that we are creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition if we are saying you cannot use any of the weapons or various features. That is a little bit tough. Can I make the offer? Only simple weapons exist? Maybe? I don't know, guys. We're gonna have to... Let's make the setting. We're gonna have to
find
not think
out.
about D&D too much, or this is gonna break down into us being like, what's a caveman longsword? And that will make me bored to tears. So,
Yeah.
I'm telling that. All I was thinking about with weaponry was you're upgrading it with whatever dinosaurs you're killing, and
yeah, we can get into some of that. You're talking about mechanics. We cannot...
oh yeah, that's for later, definitely.
Yeah, when we do a Kickstarter for $2 million and I can take a month off work to figure out how to make spears and stone axes work, for sure. We're going to be the first RPG to ever have durability scores. You attack 10 times and then your stone
Yes!
axe breaks, nerd. Okay.
Tears of
I would
Kingdom,
play
Zelda, let's
arcade.
go.
I'll be so thrilled I would never play that game.
Yeah, nobody would. Okay. So we have some things to establish. We're trying to make a whole world here. We know the core concept, which is that we want there to be dinosaurs. And I'll say for me, it's ancient magic. That is what is intriguing me about this idea. The dinosaurs I could, it's neat, but they're dinosaurs in D&D. So for me, it is the ancient magic. We're going to go around the horn, and each of us is going to say the thing about this setting we are most excited by at first blush. I went first. Spencer, you're next.
First blush, this is an unexplored world. I think that there's going to be secrets and dungeons and things that are unexplainable that are going to be super cool for us to try to explain parts of. So the world is filled with stuff that's explorable.
Huge. Michael.
My favorite is the prehistorifying creatures. Like what is what's this monster look but a million years earlier? Ancestors, sort of.
So
And we
sick.
can just come up with a lot of them whole cloth. What
Yeah.
we can legally do on this stream is be inspired by the physical appearance and overall description of some of our favorite monsters. What we cannot do is make prehistoric versions of existing IPs. So we're all about to walk just the coolest and sturdiest balance beam in history. Well, about to be that French guy who walked between the towers in like the 90s, really strutting his stuff. So, ancient magic in unexplored world and creatures prehistoric. I love it. Next up, what have we accidentally made true? This is the most important part. Number one, we have not made Jack Vance's Ancient Earth, where we're actually so far in the future that everything is prehistoric. So that means the first thing that I am putting down is that there are no ruins anywhere. We're not going to find the ancient city of Column Thresh, land of the elf lords of the First Dynasty. It's not there. It's a cave and some trees. Number two, magic items don't need to be new, right? Prehistory took up a chunky 400,000 years or whatever, depending on... Actually, wait a minute. If you're a truther, then like 2,000 years. But, you know, whatever. Took up a good chunk of time. So, I'll say magic items need to be recent. They need to be from within the same time period. You aren't finding an ancient blade buried deep below in the tomb of a great warrior. You are finding an item that has been made in the last 1,000 years. Which, to somebody who's only read, like, George R.R. Martin, they're going to be like, that's a long time ago. Hey, that's brand new in fantasy terms.
We have a comment on the YouTube chat. What are the DMs writing tonight? A recap, we're jumping into a brand new IP here, pitched by Michael. So it's going to be essentially a full setting that is set in prehistory. So we're talking dinosaurs that are modeled after some of our favorite fantasy characters.
Yep.
So goblin-esque elders, you know, stuff like that. In a world that doesn't have ancient ruins and dungeons to crawl because everything's happening now.
We hit everybody's favorite thing about the thought of prehistoric fantasy, which for me was ancient magic, for Spencer was an unexplored world, and for Michael was creatures prehistoric, which I do think sounds really fun, right? All thorns and lots of oxygen and a nice big sun. You know,
we're bigifying so much.
Yeah, more air. The earlier you go, the more oxygen there is, and the bigger the stuff is. We're in the golden there. And now I'm saying the second thing, and this is true every time you try to make a world setting. Every now and again, you need to sit down with a sheet of paper and you need to write down the things you have accidentally made true. Because that happens all the time when you are running games. And the two things I can think of right now that we have accidentally made true is that there cannot be any ruins of any ancient civilizations, because otherwise we are not prehistory, we are just history. And number two, any magic items we find will be relatively recent. They will be things that are being discovered in time with everything else. I think we're probably gonna have a lot of natural magic items. I'm very excited by the thought of ripping the tooth out of some prehistoric great bear.
Mm-hmm.
And that tooth is has magical properties to it. I think there is some fun to be had there.
Definitely.
Can we think of anything else that we have accidentally made true?
We have limited the political game in a very real way, because if it's prehistory, we don't have wide-reaching civilizations. There will be villages, towns, maybe, but in a very prehistoric sense. So we're not like kingdoms and warfaring anything.
There is this odd twist, which is magical communication, if we're using the 5e rule set, does exist. So there's going to be this weird thing where it's like people can communicate with each other. Maybe they could teleport, but where are you getting a cut diamond worth whatever in prehistory? So that level of things is going to be limited as well. I'm going to write down material components are going to be a touch hard to come by.
Yeah, there's one person that found a cave of diamonds, and he is master of travel.
He's been killed by a strong group for his diamonds.
He died instantly. He lived 13 minutes. So I cannot think of anything else too terribly central to what we're doing here. Other than that, I am sorry, if you want to play an artificer, you just can't. You just aren't allowed, which is rare that we ban a class, but c'est la vie, here we are. I don't need somebody trying to be like, I'm a battlesmith, and I'm like, with what? With a stone, nerd? Don't need your useless diamonds. All right. So that's our main thing. Michael?
I was thinking about there's some like spells like metal shape is a
metal.
spell. What shape
Oh,
metal?
you're saying like the metallurgs of the time would be creating the technology, carving the diamonds, things like that. So there would be a group.
Yeah,
Something like that.
just we were talking about banning stuff and like that. Just that spell came to mind. And it's just an interesting thought in that world.
Okay.
Yeah, there's heat metal and stuff, so you don't need a forge. So there would be some creations.
Yeah, there's probably some creator sort of stuff, but it's still so limited.
Guys, and just like that, we're off to the races. We're leaving accidental truths behind, and we're moving into realized truths. Because that didn't need to be true. We could just say that magic is still in its youth. But we have just said out loud on the stream, and we all know the rules. We all know the rules. That magic does exist, that those spells are being cast, which means I have just written down our first piece of lore, which is that this prehistoric world is not necessarily ruled, but is guided and dominated by magical conclaves. Those first people to discover the early secrets of magic immediately dominated the space. They could produce metal. They are in the Bronze Age, while everybody else is in the Stone Age. So there is immediately a huge power imbalance between these two groups of people. They discovered magic, and they were gone. They were off.
And in my game, we've already discovered the bad guys, so congratulations, I'd be ready to go.
Now, if we're trying to prep this for Dungeons and Dragons, we need to consider the major magical sources. There is arcane magic, there is divine magic, and then this is a subject of debate, but I think it's true. There's natural magic. There is the sort of magic of the communing and balance of nature itself, reserved for druids and rangers. Fair enough.
I think nature magic is stronger, more realized in this world. And there is arcane, and what was the other one you said?
Divine.
Divine.
The gods of this world speak. I
feel like that's super strong, and I think it would be hard to wield. That's where wild magic, sorcery, like that kind of thing would come.
A huge mental paradigm shift to remember when you're in fantasy world. When, little bit of a statement here, sorry for any listeners, when the gods are real, it means that you are discovering dogma. You aren't writing it. You are discovering the dogma of these gods. You are discovering the beliefs that surround them and having to figure them out. So the number one thing that I've written down here is I think the relationship between nature and its casters in normal Dungeons and Dragons is very much about balance. It's about structure. It's about trying to give the natural world some of its power back. The natural world has all the power. So what I'm saying is what is typically reserved for demons, devils, and celestials, I think is true of nature spirits. I think nature magic is mostly kind of warlock coded. These things are already powerful. These things are already incredibly strong. Comment on YouTube. It seems to me that magic would evolve from nature to arcane. I think that's a fair thought. I would say the term evolve is the only one that I take small umbrage with. I think that arcane casters steal magical secrets. So somebody gifts you with the ability to cast natural magic, and then somebody studies the way that you cast.
That's making the rules and the laws of magic.
They study the circles and the sigils that are carved in the air, and they start to pencil it down. And when they cast it themselves with no base, the first arcane spell is cast in the world. It is
and we're getting the conflict already with the druidic nature type magic people would essentially always be in conflict with arcanists. Because they would be going against the natural order.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking, arcane magic in this situation probably isn't as strong. It's still being learned and founded, and the books aren't written yet. There's no wizard colleges.
There's some other rules for this setting, and one of my first ones is, hey man, no liches. Would nature magic be primal magic in D&D? Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
I the only thing I just don't know, and it's entirely possible that people know more than I do, is I've just heard it referred to in a couple of different ways, because there's like primal savagery, there's the concept of primal magic. We're also talking about like 6.5 editions worth of Dungeons and Dragons of naming and renaming and naming and renaming things. But yeah, I mean, okay. I think we're in a good direction. I don't want to get bogged down in the language. And I think that was a very good idea. We always love to get those things and start to think about it. So nature magic exists. Divine magic is being slowly discovered. And then as casting becomes more prevalent, arcane casters begin to learn the magic of the world. They observe carefully, quietly, slowly, and they begin to watch what sigils are traced in the air by instinct. When a great dragon that has natural spell casting casts, an arcane person watches them, studies them, and steals their magic, finds a way to recreate it and re-impersonate it without nature's blessing, and that's where we get arcane magic. Super great. We have another huge choice to make. Michael, go ahead, pop off with it, but we have a big thing to do early.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Diggs, by the way, says hello. Oh, he says, "Hey, what's up?"
Howdy, dude.
Hey, what's up?
Hey. Welcome, welcome.
So, we have a vital choice to make, especially in these fantasy worlds. So we've established that the spirits of nature are incredibly strong, and that arcane magic is not necessarily weak, it is just new. Divine magic is the question. What are the gods of this world like? Is Pelor, the great lord of light, with a sun for a head, wearing plate armor, wielding a great sword, is he like that before we come up with great swords? Or will he be like that once we do?
I'm always of the mind that the beliefs of the mortals shape what the gods are like. I think it's a way more interesting take than the opposite.
And now we have to make the second choice, and everybody knows how I'm going to vote. If you've watched any of our content or seen anything that I come up with, everybody knows how I'm going to vote. There's 3 kinds of gods out there, guys. There's only 3. God type number 1. Unimaginable things beyond your comprehension that you are lucky to commune with, and hopefully you survive that communion. Hopefully. Y'all know that's where I'm going. Number 2. Gods are very, 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 very powerful. Probably can't be killed. But they have a body, they have a voice, they have a face. You pray to them, they give you stuff. Great. They have conduits in the world. You speak to those conduits when you can't speak to the god. Cool. Option number 3. The gods are among us. They can be slain. They are here. 2 gods can war over the same domain. Last time we copped out and did 2. I think we should commit to the bit and choose one, which we rarely do. So my question is, option number 1. Unknowable, strange beings from beyond our world that you are lucky to survive your communion with, but you're probably walking away with power. Option number 2. Powerful gods with personalities, hard to kill, maybe not impossible, that elect champions in the world. Option number 3. The gods are mundane. They walk the plains, they make decisions, they make mistakes, they fight over domain. Those are our 3 options.
My personal vote is to go number 2. Sorry. My vote is to go take a dump. No, my personal vote is to pick number 2, where the gods are deal withable, because I feel like nature is sort of taking that unknowable magic route as it is. So I think that having nature be the unknowable and the gods be more knowable is interesting.
Fabulous. Michael.
I'm split between doing 1 and 2. I'm leaning more towards 2, but only having a few gods. And I was thinking, like, god of nature, a god of fear, just these whatever's the biggest entities within this world almost, and two more big things that I can't think of at the moment.
Yeah, so it'd be like fear, love, the primal emotions that people can feel. I could see that.
I'm interested overall in the concept. I do think we need to embrace a pantheon of a certain size just because it makes D&D easier, right? If this is a
Mhm.
5e setting, there's 13 cleric subclasses. And so I'm willing to say there are only 5 gods who have been discovered and whose names are spoken on the wind and in the trees. That's cool. But I think we need to leave it open as, but every day there are rumors, whispers coming down the mountain. You know, I think that has to also be true because it just
Sure.
helps everything work.
Yeah, I'm
And
cool with
then
that.
you've got cults that you
Hmm.
can investigate as a party that you'll discover actually have made communion with a god. So
I
it's like,
have-
oh my god, there's more stuff here. Yeah, super cool.
One thing, because we're primaling or Jurassicing, what's a different thing we call cults? Because I don't think we have cults yet.
Yeah, cults came after the Greek period.
I mean,
or
cults
during
are-
the ancient Greece.
Cult is, yeah, I was about to say, cult is like the ancient Greek term for a group of people sort of hitting up one god. And right on cue for us saying the term cult, somebody on YouTube says, like Zeus, who wielded a lightning bolt, Pelor would wield. And number 3, oh, I think it may have abbreviated this comment. Spencer, you might have better luck than I, taking a peek at what it says.
Potentially, let me see.
We'll have to see. Alas, I'm so sorry if your content gets lost. So while you look at that, we have 3 magics confirmed and labeled. Arcane magic is mimetic. It is duplicate that is starting to gain its own personality. Divine magic, the gods are. They exist. They have personality and power, but only by proxy, and so you are praying to them and visiting their will upon the world. The nature spirits are so immense in their power and do not speak the language of the mortals yet. They are still speaking great sylvan songs to one another, wandering the mountains and glades, and accepting warlocks, not parishioners. Druids and warlocks are like offering gifts and protecting the balance in exchange for power enough to survive. So our magic system is pretty well laid out for the basics. Spencer.
That was a chosen ellipses. It wasn't forced. So it was more of a prompt than an offering. It sounds world shattering. Consider if 2 gods have vendettas against each other. Yeah, that's when like entire communities would be wiped out. Having them be in the second camp makes it less likely that they would involve themselves, especially if we have them, you know, in the glades and the rivers, not really focused on everyone yet. Works well.
So I think this is solid. We know these people have domains. We know the nature gods are very powerful. I have one more magic question, one more world building question. These great and powerful spirits of nature, are they limited? Like, are they only doing natural, in a way that a druid has a very specific list of spells? My question is, that is true of druids that are trying to protect the balance. Does an unbalanced nature god abide by those rules? Does a great and terrible force of entropy that is not divine, but just, you know, I'm thinking of that guy from Ferngully, the smoke demon, who like drinks the tar and the gasoline and starts to grow. Are those forces only divine and the nature spirits are in conflict with this newfound evil personification? Or does nature contain the same spectrum in our world that divine does? In D&D, not perfectly so, but it seems like nature gods only wander off in those directions when they get corrupted. My question is, do you have to corrupt a nature god for it to do necrotic damage? Or are there some natural creatures that are hitting you with that force damage?
There are some natural creatures out there hitting you with necrotic. You know, that's this is the ancient world. It's super fucked up all the time. I think it makes sense that the nature gods are maybe not the best.
We just made a magic system.
Whoa, we're in.
Sweet.
Okay. So, magic items are recent, low politics, material components are expensive, magical conclaves have great power. Our magical conclaves are either aligned with the arcane and the mimetic nature of stealing others' power, or they are divine and have sworn themselves to a god and are building the first temples of this world, or they sit at the feet of the great bear Kalshun and feed him great offerings in turn for power and mercy. All of that I love. So that is our sort of natural magical world. Now we have another choice to make because it builds up everything else. What is the size and scope of the setting? A setting can be a continent, right? For the most part, Dungeons and Dragons, while it does make forays into other places, I can feel the comment being typed. While it does wander off to other places, for the most part, you're going to rock up and down the Sword Coast and maybe go to Chult once or twice. Things are pretty straight up the middle. Maybe you wander off to Ravenloft, but for the most part, you're on the Sword Coast. Versus some larger, more expansive settings that are looking at a world and embrace, basically, how much are we just going to be making big choices, and how much do we want to be like, this is where we're looking, and make specific choices?
I don't think that we need to go wide with this world. It's going to be fairly similar everywhere you go because it's prehistory. I think we can get a little wacky, a little goofy with some of the wider implications of the world, but I think we're focusing more Sword Coast level.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Okay, so we're at the sort of country/regional level, which makes sense. You're traveling on foot. Horses probably have yet to be domesticated. You know what I mean? You are traveling in a very certain kind of way. If you're teleporting, there are rules to teleport. You have to have heard of it. You have to know about it. You can't just say, I'm going to teleport to the other side of the world. You'll end up in the middle of it. You'll end up burning in lava somewhere like an idiot.
Happened a lot.
If I can say one thing, I would like the idea of dinosaur mounts.
We'll get
Dinosaur
there.
mounts is so easy. It's just, you want a horse? Yeah, we've got a raptor-style
Sorry,
horse.
I'm getting flashbacks to the 600 times that in the bottom right corner of my screen it has said Michael is playing Ark. Whoa, that's weird. I'm getting a nosebleed.
Where did I get that
What's
idea
happening
from?
right now? All right, cool. So we've got this country/regional scope. My favorite Dungeons and Dragons. This is a gift to the listeners. If you haven't thought of this yet, you're welcome. How many wizards tried to teleport to the moon before they stopped? How many of them went, I can see that, and then died in the vacuum of space? How many do you think it was?
5.
5? Wow, that's low. I think
5.
I think there was a big initial burst of about 100, and I still think there's about 2 a year. I still think there's students who are like, I'm stronger than them. Oh, like they might think there's a dragon up there. You know, they don't know.
I think one really, really strong one did it after a couple slightly weaker ones did it. And then they went, we're not going to be better than the Arch Wizard, right? We know that that's not us. And then they kind of gave up. And then a couple more schmoes did it. Foolish.
So at this country/regional level, so we know what we're talking about, right? We're talking about like 2,000 miles by 4,000 miles, maybe more, maybe less if we're talking about like big countries. If we're talking about like, you know, smaller, wedged between two mountain ranges, kind of tinier spaces, we're fine. But by going with this, that means that we need to figure out how many conclaves of great magic have formed in this place. How many of them are there? And how many of them are arcane or divine or natural? I think there needs to be at least 2 of each. The thought that there is only one place to go learn arcane magic, this is going to sound weird. I just don't think it's good for a book. It's not good for a D&D game. You want options, you want diversity of choice, you want difference. If everybody's learning arcane stuff at the exact same location, you're quickly like, so this is the one place we can do that. Super sick and cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many conclaves are of great and mighty power? Let's start there. Top of the top. These are the earliest people to discover their god, or the people who have formed the most powerful bond to the natural spirit. My first instinct is that there's gotta be a giant tree that carves through the clouds and into the canopy above, right? Like,
Of course. I would say so.
Yep. There's that. I would say some like tar pit. Or like a field
Natural.
of yeah,
That's where a lot of that-
field, yeah, a field of like natural tar pits, and that's almost corrupted nature magic.
That's the dark nature magic that you're going to be hitting. I think that
we can use terms like dark and corrupted, but I think we're just talking about necromancy.
Yeah.
You arrive at this place that is full of the energy of death, countless bodies suspended in this place and countless bones to be resurrected. Right? We are filling a lot of our needs as we make our way through. I know, and we got to be so close to not make prehistoric Avatar. We got to walk that line real cautious. So
You know what else it is? Fucking Dagobah. Luke training with Yoda on Dagobah.
Gotcha. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I was like, what is he talking about? I don't. Okay, so we have two people that we want the tar pit conclave to be immensely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm down. And then this great tree, right? I mean, we just have to do like a big Yggdrasil thing. So that's two that are obviously nature oriented. Do we want one more large and powerful nature thing, or is two enough and it's time to move on?
Michael, did you have one for nature?
The only other nature one I was thinking of, it's on the water, just like the ocean.
Just any coastline? Yeah, that's pretty sick.
I forgot how scary the ocean is.
Yeah.
Spencer, you had an idea. Pop off. What is it?
Mine would be a god of death. It would be it's not a civilization, a town, a village, something like that. It's like the burned ashes of that town or location, I think is a place of power. It could be one specific one or general, like the coastline. So any town that's been completely razed is a place where you can worship this god of death.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. So dead civ god. So not necessarily a god of dead civilization, but a god where that is where they can be prayed to. After there is a massacre, there is a moment of, eventually, a couple days later, people start to arrive. That's very cool. I love that.
And that's where you get those like warlock pacts where like my whole family was killed. I came back to the village and there's nothing left. So I swore to anything I could get to listen to me that I would do their service if they gave me power to get revenge. Is there. It
also gives us, I'm gonna have to pencil this down. I don't know what they're called, but it also gives us another faction in the world, or another role that is called like an ash sweeper, which is when you destroy a town, when you level it for your petty grievance, somebody needs to come along and disperse it so that this god does not take root and empower the survivors of your onslaught. Huge. So we have three powerful nature organizations here. We've got the Great Tree, we've got the Tar Pits, and we've got whoever is chilling by the ocean. I'm already scared of that guy.
We don't need to get into any more detail.
So now we need at least a few divine, and then we need to decide if arcane has gotten here yet. I don't think so, but that's my vote. So divine. What gods, A, have been discovered long enough ago to give great power and therefore allow these people to advance to this degree? And B, how many of them are there?
So we've already got the one of death. That's baked in.
Yeah.
So there is a place where that god is housed. Where is that?
Yeah. Great question.
Because it's different than the tar pits, and that's a world tension.
Mm-hmm. It's always so easy to just be like, yeah, he's in like the deep pits of an old civilization. There is no old civilization.
I think if we're sticking with the ash theme, then there is probably
volcano.
Is there either a volcano or is there some great burned forest?
Yeah, I could see that.
We're gonna want to put the god of fire in that volcano.
Yeah, we're not putting it. And this is like the god instead of a nature spirit. I feel like a nature spirit would fit into the volcano pretty well. I think that
this is a place where this thing is worshipped, not where it lives. These things are extra dimensional. We already made that a rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a huge burned section of the forest. Nothing can grow there. Nothing has grown there for hundreds of years. An asteroid could have crashed there. Like, it could be anything that wiped it out. But there's no life within, 25 miles of the center of this location. 50 miles, whatever.
Instead of calling it, I think the easy way is calling it the Great Scar. But I think that's been used too many times. Probably call it like the Great Wound.
Yeah.
I have unfortunately strapped on my fantasy hat, which I cannot avoid. And my first thought was the place of the first dying.
All
Land
right.
of the first
Yeah.
dying. A temple is built at the center, and what they believe, which may or may not be true, is the first creature to ever die died there, and now nothing can live in its presence. It is this anchor of great necrotic energy.
Yeah, that's wild. That's like Cain and Abel, the first murder. We've
The-
got that
The
in the
burn
world.
marks are the magical, natural, arcane symbol of that deity. I like that. So when you try to cast this deity spells, you burn something, and an arcane caster with a pair of binoculars would see as you light the fire that it would trace symbols and then burn. There would be just a moment where a cautious eye could see that there are symbols that appear first. There is something there that then burns as if to destroy the evidence. I love that. Side of the first death. Do we want a vague reference to Cain and Abel? Do we want to be, because we can't necessarily say that it is the place where something died for the first time. It can be the site of the first murder.
That's true. Yeah. The side of the first murder is pretty fun. I think it's cool. So we've got that god sorted. We need at least a couple more named and discovered gods.
At least one or two that are of significant power. And I think that that is relatively important. I do think that maybe there is some... I'm trying to think of what it would be. There has to be some version of the god of civilization, right? Because we are watching that dawn in the world, and that has to be one of our tensions. Is that this level of threat yet? Do we already have our first, like, really constructed place?
I think it's like being constructed. This is like this is a smaller god that I'm always willing to call like the god of togethering.
Oh, it could be like a pupil god. It's in this village that became a town that's becoming essentially an ancient version of a city, and it's not fully ascended yet. It's still in that killable stage, so they're building out to keep it safe. Would be pretty interesting.
God, that's making a lot true, guys.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
fun, but you just changed the rules of the world instantly. Spencer, you seem to have an idea. I want to make sure we hear both of them. What was your thought?
That was it. I was just thinking about the idea of a young god. I don't think I had anything else.
Oh, okay. I'm down to say this god isn't super strong yet or is clearly building power. We can't have it. We can't do seed gods. We can't.
That's
You're
fair.
changing the rules. That's option.
fair.
If you wanted option 3, I gave you option 3.
Yeah.
No. So I think though I do like the idea. This god is building power, and there is a construction site, a place where like a giant flat is being built, like they're carving a path through a mountain or something to make it happen, and it's the first one of those, right? It's the first time the topography is being wholly amended to allow construction. A freshwater god is hilarious. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, they all need to have more than one thing in their domain, and that's what all of the clerics and paladins, etc., are trying to discern, right? Their first thought is, oh, this is a god of like love. It's like, oh no, it's a god of camaraderie. No, it's a god of civilization. All of those things might be within its domain, and fresh water going through, craftsmanship might also be part of that. I think the domains can be encompassing a pretty wide array that all drain up to like one main idea.
Yeah.
I think is pretty interesting.
I think again we're kind of going with this building up sort of thing, and I think the lore of this god that's being heard more. I think. All right. Question: do people hear their god? Can you speak to your god? Can your god speak to you?
By proxy, yes. It might not be very clear if you're communing with a god that you don't know their ways well. You are still trying to learn them, right? The first person to speak to the god of fire is probably covered in burns. But now we know how to do it, and so it has gotten safer.
Cool. I think at first this god, its place of worship was like your... before you had towns, it was just like your cave. It was like your hearth. With your immediate group that you're with. When we got to town, it was like your place of prayer for it was like the center of that town, that your fire pit that was at the center of your encampment. And then we're getting to the city, and it's like, and each time we've gotten bigger, you can hear it a little bit more clearly, whatever they're saying. And now
I love that.
we
Can I
have this
pitch-
big city, and we're praying to whatever's the center of the city.
Can I pitch Islay, God of Hearth and Home?
Yeah, easy.
Cool.
Great. Just off the
I
dome.
think that
So I think
the-
that. So, we were just talking about stream
Double up.
latency off camera, and boys, this is a stream for it. Spencer.
I think that the idea of all of our gods having levels of worship where they are stronger and stronger and stronger still is super interesting. The god of death, the strongest place is the site of the first murder. But there are smaller tiers at the gravestone of a loved one, at a site of a recent death.
Yeah.
Like all of those are places where you can connect, but it's strongest in that one place.
This the way that I think about these things, again, like we said, I think a lot in like sentences and like those lore blurb text, which is funny because I hate writing them, but it is the way that I think. I'm immediately, when you get like this god of the first murder who is placed there, I can see the speech that happens sometime in our game in this setting where it's like, you do not understand. Every stag hunted with an arrow, every rabbit felled by a trap, are great souls ground in a prayer wheel to me. Every unnatural falling makes me stronger, whether it is given over to me or not, right? There is this consumption, because this god is going to be evil in 300 years. Right now they might not be, but that first civilization's gonna hit, and this dude's gonna stop being chill in me. This is how you end up with Baal, Lord of Murder. Like, this is how you backdoor into that. So
I love the idea that these gods aren't really naturally evil or good, not even really neutral. They don't know what they are yet. The world's still too new for that. And then things change and they fall that way.
So you have the great tree, you have the tar pits, you have the ocean, you have this god of death unnatural, you have Islay, god of hearth and home, and there is a village built at the base of a mountain, but you can see going up it where tiers have started to be carved out of the face of the mountain to allow them to build and grow more than they should be able to in one place, right? I'm thinking like those rice paddy fields that are constructed in that way. So you're watching this take place, but it has yet to fully happen. So Islay is strong, but has yet to dispose any of these other beings, which it might do eventually. So now my next question is, if we have 3 nature spirits and we have 2 divine gods, do we want a third to balance them? I don't think we can go to 4 in this tier of power that is so very high.
I did have an idea.
Literally.
I just asked if we wanted one more. If you have one more idea, that's 3 and 3.
So it'd be God of Fire, because it's Isla, the god of Hearth and Home. The god of Fire would be her twin, almost. God of Hearth. It started out, he was the god of the flame that was brought, and then it just was more, and then he's turning this guy god of the sun.
The only issue I have is we've got the dust symbolism, the burned villages for unnatural death already. So diversifying that, changing it up a bit would be rough.
I think it is the god of death is not the god of burning things. It is the god of the ashes that are left behind. I think this is probably the god of fire and war. And I think that's what keeps it from being a nature spirit, right? Because if it's the god of fire, why isn't it a spirit if we're trying to make a prehistoric world? We need to add one more element. We need to add something. So I think this is where these paths diverge. The first fire is discovered, it moves, and it splits. Some people use fire to build and cook, and other people use it to burn. And that is the divide that we see. This god of the reavers, this god of the first ravagers who take instead of create, right? Spencer?
Huge comment. Identical or fraternal? I would say identical, because the lore of the world is like, oh, occasionally, Ilya, right? That's the name.
Ialay, Islay.
Islay will take the the dress of her twin and appear in the midst of a war and convince the generals to concede, to no longer do battle. They would be essentially fucking the other person's plans up because they're so antithetical to each other. I think the trickery there would be fun. Where it's like, oh, I'm the god of war, but you're not doing it right. You better give it up. Really was the god of hearth and home.
And I would like to give a huge shout out to them, because if they're identical twins, I don't have to come up with a second name. It is Ile, god of hearth and home, and Yalia, god of fire and war. And I don't need to come up with a second name. This is the best day ever.
That's awesome.
They can be 3 and 3. Alas, if we add one more divine presence, we upset the balance of our precarious world. It cannot happen. So we must downgrade to the sort of medium tier of godly beings. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Already, I want to say, now this is where we get to an odd moment, and this is where there's always a trickster. I know, I'm excited. We gotta have a god of, Spencer, we have, shout out, we gotta have a god of trickery and deception or something.
Trickery is always fun.
So
That's always there.
Now,
it's always up in it.
I do want to say, we've reached an important inflection point, and so I want to stop for a moment and call it out, which is, when you are prepping at home, it's important to know when you do have enough to, like, get something done. Right? When doing anything else is now you set dressing. We could run it tomorrow, right? We know the gods, we know the world, we know the rules of magic, and we know the 6 most important locations in the world. You always start the party in an important location anyways, and the next thing they're going to want to do is go to a second important location. And so with those 6 laid out, we're already swimming good here. Now, we have a choice. We can move down to our sort of medium tier, or we can start talking about how these large beings are in conflict. I could see either being valuable. We have some good ideas kicking around, so I think maybe going with the medium creatures next is a good idea, because it seems like we're already thinking of some. What do you guys think?
That mine, because I have an idea for a spirit.
Huge.
All right, so we're doing mid-level.
Yeah.
So minor deities.
Oh, huge thing. Are there no arcane domains that have reached the same level as these 6?
I think there are none. This is a purely mankind thing. Mortal kind thing. This is a D&D world.
Yeah, we're going to have to... That's going to be a huge pain.
Yeah.
So normally you need to have something happen early in Dungeons and Dragons history to make it justifiable that people can play whatever species they want, wherever it is that they are. Normally that is the discovery of teleportation. In Prospect, it was the great gift of the god of life. Prospect is a young Earth created by Respis and his 2 siblings, and so all life was created at once without regard to its location, which is my favorite stupid thing we've ever done, because it's just hilarious. Now, in this world, we want people to be able to play what they would like, so we do need to start to mull over how that is possible. My first instinct is to say, oops, all Dragonborn. Dragonborn are a created, constructed people, right? They are usually born by magic or by some other proxy or system. So the thought that maybe humans, elves, and dwarves emerged from the mud and everything else is a gift might be worth our time. If I can take this opportunity to have elves be like tree bark, spindly and creepy, which is what I always want to do, then I think humans were first and everything else is gifted. Like everything else comes from these gifts. But those gifts have happened over hundreds of thousands of years, and so they do all kind of exist and sit alongside each other. That's the earliest version that I think makes sense. I'm down for other ideas. Michael, you had an idea for a god. What is it?
Yeah, so 2 things. You gave us a time span. I don't think we're working with hundreds of thousands of years.
We've got tens, right? Tens of thousands of years.
Unfortunately, if things evolved, then we do have hundreds of thousands of years. If things did not evolve and they were crafted whole cloth by the gods of the world, then for sure. But then we get to the interesting question of, if the gods created the world, why do they look like us and we don't look like them? This is that fantasy shit. You gotta mull around a little bit.
Yeah. No, definitely interesting ideas.
We can make a choice about that. I'm willing to nix those early years. But if it's prehistoric and we have dinosaurs, it implies progeny. It implies a
Yeah.
motion forward and the emergence of like real full-blooded consciousness being one of the more recent evolutions we have. Which of those two options are we more attracted by? Do we think this is an evolved world and that the gods could finally be heard, right? Did they feel this great feeling of relief at finally being seen and listened to? Having a species been birthed by a falling star, excuse me? You're gonna drop heat rocks like that in our chat? I love that. We're gonna have to pick somebody for that to be. So, did the gods eagerly anticipate and await the first real sentient to discover them? Or was there this crash of life on the world as life was created and the gods were created and man was created and elves were created and they just appear like some kind of magical in media res Big Bang?
I think that it's more interesting to have it be the gods were on this world for thousands of years, crafting and creating and doing nonsense, messing around with each other, but not really having a real semblance of anything until consciousness arrived through the eventual formation of humans. The arrival, appearance, creation, etc. And then quickly they were given a truer form, a better understanding of self, and they could communicate with the humans, and then said, ooh, we can make something like that. Here are elves, here are dragonborn, here are dwarves, and built their own versions of those things.
So humans evolved, and then the gods were like, cool, and made a bunch.
Whoa! Yeah, they just hadn't even thought about that.
I think that's super cool. The falling star idea, super cool too. I think that's how. I think that's how. That's where we get our Azim.
Oh, yeah.
Azimar in this world being starborn. Writing it down. Writing it down.
So good.
So I do want to say there's a faction that we have made canon without meaning to. So the Azimar Starborn, I love it. The gods were once light and flux. They danced across the world, crafting mountains and carving coasts for their own joy. And then the first man prayed to the first god, and nothing was ever the same again, which means one of these gods hates mortals for doing that. One of these gods despises mortals for doing that. We have a real Nyarlathotep ass, like, livid being that cannot bear the burden of consciousness and is willing to end the world to end that. Absolutely
Michael?
Brutal.
I'm pretty sure Spencer and I had the same idea. Is nature god of ocean.
Not mine. Go ahead, do your pitch, and I'll do mine.
That is why man does not tread the oceans, because it is so deadly. The god of ocean, wants to flood this land.
We made a big populated, doing well ocean civilization. We made a big ocean civilization that's doing great.
The freshwater one with...
No, we said the spirit of the oceans has empowered a civilization. That's one of our three. Am I crossing that off the list?
I would cross it off the list.
Did we have... Now, wait a minute. We honor ideas. Spencer, you clearly had an idea that was not ocean. Let's see if these two can meet somewhere. Spencer, idea, go!
Mine would be the god of the first murder. It was still free until that murder occurred to basically do whatever it wanted. Now it is burdened by power, strength, and responsibility, and hates that. It doesn't want to be the god of unnatural death. And so, if it can wipe all unnatural beings, humans, etc., off of this plane, it no longer has to deal with that, because all death will then be natural again. So it doesn't have to sit on that throne.
So who's worshiping the god of annihilation, man?
Freaks. People that want to be spared, not understanding what this god does.
Then I'm downgrading him off the big boy list.
I think we can go with the ocean. I think it's easier to cut the civilization because we didn't do any work on it. We can go with that.
So let's say I'm going to cross out ocean, and I'm going to say there is a spirit of water, and what's the sweet boy version of that? I don't want to say fresh water because that just doesn't feel
Springs.
fantasy. Water and the god of water in spring. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Boom.
You have to say it like a wizard. Actually, can I say something? This is my... I don't know if I should say it. We can basically cancel DM Writer's Room after this. I'm going to say the most important advice that I have, and I am sorry, guys. Our company's going to go under. Do yourself a favor. If you've come up with something and you're not sure if it's a good idea for fantasy or not, if you're like, I don't know if it's going to work, say it like a wizard, and you'll immediately know. Just say it like a wizard. And you'll go, oh, that didn't quite work. And then fit it and twist it until when you say it like this, it sounds good. Just get it to sound like a wizard would say it, and you're gonna have a great time. So,
because reading the word like the name Shadowfax, you're like, what the fuck is that? But then you say Shadowfax, and you're like, yeah, we're there.
You gotta say it like a wizard. It's the number one piece of advice I have. Okay. So we've mended that nice and neat, and we have this great and terrible god of the ocean who despises mortals, despises the sentient races for burdening them with knowledge. They once swam. They once were one with the sea and the stars above and enjoyed a life of peace and camaraderie with their cousins, and are now forced to ponder and think and worry and starve, and they hate us. I love it. Absolutely huge. I'm just now, unfortunately, my note for that is just God of the Ocean bad. But
we'll flesh that out in the next stream.
Sure.
We got plenty of
You
time.
gotta take the time you got. All right. Big
Comment is: do not look into the abyss, for the abyss may look into you.
the
It's
ocean.
huge.
Yeah.
The entire ocean. Yeah. The idea of boats being made and then immediately sunk. You go more than like 50 feet out into the ocean, you're cooked.
You're done.
Hilarious.
Mhm.
I had to ask. So for those of you, I don't want to dox myself here. I'll keep it big. I had to ask what something meant. I had a real
Ooh.
peepaw moment. Somebody said that they said about Medea. They said, yeah, she really crashed out.
Oh yeah, it's when you have a big breakdown
And I
you
had to go-
take it out on the people around
And
you.
I had to bite the bullet. I had to go, what does that mean? I had no idea what they were talking about.
I just learned it like a week ago. I
Yeah.
feel like it's kind of new
I
in the
missed
modern parlance. Anyway,
All right, so we downgrade to the medium tier here. We gotta nail down this arcane group first, right? At least one of them, maybe two. I kind of like the idea that there is a dominant and a recessive one. So I think we should have one in this tier and then one in the lower. And I think there's only two. So what is the most powerful arcane force in the world? The first, thieves. The fact that there's already the arcane trickster rogue is making me extremely excited about this prospect. I think that they are probably the founders. I love the idea that the first arcane caster was not a wizard. It was a trickster rogue who stole magic and began to write it down, and then wizards come after. They learn from that and begin to build it as its own thing rather than supplementing what they do.
what does the word wizard mean in our world? Because it's gotta be like thief. It's gotta be something along those lines, right? Because it didn't exist until this dude stole it from the nature and divine deities. So wizard's gotta have a true meaning, and I think that that's fun.
How
It is very fun.
How do we conceptualize the divine in this world? In our world, so we're going to get really into it now. In the Lord of the Rings, it is song. The gods sang the world into existence, and in the great songs of the elves and the great songs of all people, it is seen again. There's a reason that fucking Merry and Pippin are singing all the time. And it's not just because they had a budget, right? In our world, in human land, it's light. We love light. We love to talk about light. Woo, we love light. Light is our favorite thing. In the Forgotten Realms, I have trouble sort of pinning it down. It is mostly like order, right? It is this semblance that the world possesses law enough to sustain life, and that balance is really important to the world of the Forgotten Realms, right? The great wheel must keep spinning, and the spoke of it is Sigil, the great city of doors. So that is kind of their thing. So we have balance, we have light, we have sound. How do these people conceptualize the divine? Because the word wizard means steal and then that thing.
My first instinct is to go with something like time. the gods are timeless in a way that nothing else in the world is. So viewing the gods and their power as being this ancient thing that can be wielded for a short time, but then given back to the timeless is interesting. So it's people running out of time, gods having nothing but time.
So
I think with all that too, the Steelers of Time, it's taken all this time to understand everything, and then these people just advanced instant.
Oh my God,
And it's like
Yeah.
you didn't take the time that was needed.
So I've got it. So if the theme of the divine in this world is to take and then return, is these things are these ancient beings and we are young and we will only ever live a young life. We will live so short that all men are young. Then the word wizard means someone who takes. Because the wizards took the knowledge and they didn't give it back. When they die, they don't return it. They keep writing and they keep discovering and they keep tracing and they never give it back. And so it's not not one who takes. Wizard probably means one who keeps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I say
To
something?
go-
I love this stream and it has helped me in a lot of ways to be a better DM. Writing stuff has also put this deep-seated, like, I can turn this into a sentence. One who, wizard being one who keeps. I'm gonna get a tattoo of that. Let me line that up.
And then you've
here.
got like Keeper of Arcane Lore. Like there's titles that relate to keeping and
I'm gonna make a huge
Keepsakes.
pitch that's not gonna come up for hundreds of sessions. I do not think the term keeper is a positive term in this world.
No.
I think wizards are accused of being keepers of the arcane, and that is a crime.
Yeah.
If I can also posit, they aren't tomes; they're keepsakes.
Oh yeah. What's your wizard's keepsake? A stone tablet, a small leather journal. Like, what's your keepsake? What are you keeping those
We're
notes
off
in?
to the
Yeah.
races, boys.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Along with, sorry.
the keepers, those that keep, those that take, those who do not give back, have a civilization, and they do think they're the, and this is so important, they think they're the good guys. Nobody says we're going to name ourselves the evil nation, right? These guys think they're the good dudes. They think they're great. I don't want to use too advanced of a word. My first instinct is to say the archive, because that is a place where things are kept as long as they will be able to exist. The word archive is just, it's not keeping up with Hearth and Home and the God of the Tar Pits.
No.
So I do think we need to back off that a little bit. I cannot, the text is too small for me to read. There is a comment on YouTube. Our little chat thing over here is size of text is not very consistent. I am discovering. Maybe some scaling issue. I can actually probably just make it a little bigger for my own benefit. So
An idea
Go ahead.
for that. It's not an archive. It's like the labyrinth, and it's a cave system that's gone just super deep, and that's where they keep all their knowledge. It's also a library, but not really.
This great cave? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. We got kind of a Cave of Wonders thing going on. I can get behind this. I did manage to make the chat box a little bigger. So what do you call a place? What do you call an because archive, vault? These things all feel a little too. They're a little too like Latin Rudy for me. I'm not sure I can.
I got an idea. It's one of the first spells that was taken, and it's like, what is it? Stone mold or?
So there's a couple meld into stone, or you could be talking about stone shape, or you could be talking about
move
meld
earth or something like that.
Move earth? Yeah, okay.
I'm thinking like it's the stonework, and it's just they keep on using this spell to increase this cave.
I think we need to employ a very important thing. I think we need to just give it a fantasy name that we say means place of worked stone, because it is such a rarity to see stone carved deep into a mountain like this. So what fantasy absolute syllable jumble means place of worked stone? I want a strong core to the world, a word. I don't want it to sound too upper though, so I'm trying to stay away from too many like high notes. Like my first thought is like it's the terrace or the terros. something that leads into this thought of like the Tarask, Terra Magica, the magic of the earth, right? The Taros.
Terrastada, Terostia.
Hera as being the root is pretty interesting to line it up with our own world.
So let's get a word that's like Staya and like these words that Michael is hitting on, but that sounds a little more Oonga Boonga. Terra makes sense to me, right? It's two simple words. The minute you have to start punching those upper syllables, I get a little dodgy. Terra Vol, Terra Kas, Terra Shan. Like, what's the second syllable on that?
I think Terrashan hits.
Michael has doubts.
No, I'm not doubts. I'm just trying to think.
Okay. I was like,
Sorry. I'm trying to think of Oonga Boonga words.
I've been typing, by typing I mean hitting my keyboard in a search bar until jumbles of letters come up that seem interesting. I got Terra Moog and Terra Moag.
Terra, if it wasn't for Elden Ring, Terra Moog goes crazy style. Can we just...
Is that a thing from Elden Ring?
Moog, Lord of
Moog.
Blood. Oh. Is it dissimilar enough that we could do Terra Moog? We could also do Terra Moge, so. Terra Moog.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Do we like Terra Moog better than Terra Shan?
I do.
Great. Crossing it off. Throw ideas out just as quick as you came up with them. It's the core to success. So, our first medium place is Terra Moog, which means the place of worked stone. And it is where the wizards, those who keep deep in the caverns of Terra Moog. This is so good.
We have lava tubes. That being the starting place for these huge caverns is great. And then the wizards had stolen their initial magics from the nature spirit of lava and fire. Or lava, yeah, would be super sick. They just took over this location, stole the magics, and have started doling it out to people who find them.
They broke into these lava tubes, and as the lava like poured out into the field in front of them, they saw that the walls were covered in symbols carved by the heat. Yeah, all right.
And then we have a follow-up question. Is Starfinder worth? I've heard nothing but good things about Starfinder. I have to admit, I've never played it. And I don't think that either of the boys here have.
So there's a huge question about Starfinder right now. Starfinder, I've watched some actual plays. It is essentially Pathfinder in space. They have their own version of a lot of classes, and some of it is really interesting. It was a very lethal game. Starfinder 2E is just around the corner. And so they are kind of working on that. If memory serves, I do think the playtest was either released at Gen Con or announced at Gen Con.
I think it was released.
It is just some of the early stuff, though. So I would say if that's free or cheap, go take a peek. I can tell you that the Glass Cannon podcast did a little Starfinder 2E adventure that you could find on their YouTube. So you could give that a watch through and see if it intrigues you. It's D20 base. It's based on Pathfinder 2E, so the bonuses, the thing that's going to give you whiplash is that the bonuses are high, because you are often adding your level to rolls. So you're often adding like plus 10, plus 12, plus 14, plus 16, and high CR monsters are just untouchable for a normal person, because you're talking about like AC 39 high level monsters, which I have my feelings about. I think it's kind of cool to imply that, no, you can't fight a Tarask, your name is Greg. It's not in the tables for you. But at the same time, I don't know, every now and again I kind of want the orphan boy from the streets of Kathir to get it done.
Fantasy.
That's a choice you're going to kind of have to make for yourself. I think Pathfinder looks cool. I've been trying to get these bozos to play it for 100 years, and they keep telling me no. So...
You want us to do Monster of the Week 2? We're doing that now.
You know what it does? There. It's really good. Once every 3 years, I get to try a new game with you guys, and I have to bank it for Draw Steel, so I can't have you play Pathfinder. I've got other stuff coming up. Okay, so Terra Moog, and Moog means something incredible. Moog probably means lava or whatever, which is great. So that's our first medium thing. It's the only magical one. 8:55, Spencer, cutoff time tonight.
It's gonna be 9:30.
Wow. All right, we gotta get cooking.
All right. I do have 2 ideas. One, tell me what you want to hear first. One is a related lesser spirit that we can work with, or lesser god. Very very much deals with what's going on right now, and the other one is the like main god of Arcane.
Just go. Just take the
All
idea
right.
that excites you the most and that you have the most complete in your mind, and
Both
tell us
pretty
the
complete.
keys. Throw those
Sure.
details down.
So I'll go with the spirit first then. Lesser spirit. It's the lesser nature spirit of stone. I think it's a lesser spirit because everyone, or lesser god, lesser deity, whatever we're working with. I think it's a lesser god because humanity's learned to work with this. All of our weapons are made out of stone already.
It's more knowable. Yeah.
It's and go for it.
It is more noble, and you have to hurt it to make use of its gifts.
Mhm.
The god of stone must be broken to be used, and so that's a weird relationship. I like it. I like it a lot.
Mhm.
It's a weird relationship
Yeah.
with a divine creature.
Mm-hmm. And then what's even more so is with this Terra Moog being made and the first spell being this stone shape, this lesser god is very at odds against this because they are eating him.
Yeah. I was tempted to say that Terramog would be a step below the lava god, right? And would be sort of a Prometheus figure, giving fire to the people.
Well, Terramog's not a guy. Terramog is a city.
Yeah, Terramog is the place, but the Terramog god that, has lava as its domain. We talked about that before. Terramog isn't the name, but whatever the name of this lava...
So the question is just,
Yeah.
is the god of fire and war also the god of volcanoes? Or is there a spirit of volcanoes and that's who you're talking about? Very different. Remember, we don't
Yeah.
have gods of volcanoes because that's what spirits are for. We
Mhm.
have gods of fire and gods of war and gods of blood. You know what I mean?
I think that having more nature spirits makes sense, so I'd like that to be its own thing. So nature spirit.
Also on the moderate tier then, I will write stone and then lava right beneath it. Michael, I love the idea of this stone god who wants to give and hates to be taken from, right? The thought of, well, strip mining doesn't exist. You know what I mean? So this god of stone is happy to give over pieces of itself, but is not enthused at the thought of things being taken from it. And so it is anti-magic. We have this anti-magic deity of stone. You sound a little skeptical. Is there a concern there you have?
Talking to me or Spencer?
I'm talking to you. I heard a I know it was
Oh
weird.
no, I said
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a happy I like it. I
Very
think that's
interesting
super
idea.
cool.
Seers were the first to see the wind and carve of the stone and lava. I love that. I think that could be true. I'll make a note there.
Yeah, I like it. That's fun. It's very fun. And then the second idea I had, the main god of Arcane is the god of script. Before written language wasn't a thing yet, these people are making it now.
If we were gonna have an infant god, if we were gonna put one in there, the god of script and quill, lord of ink and wells, huge.
We were prehistory. History is being written now.
History's just starting. Somebody ground up a bug and put water in it for the first time. Okay,
Yep.
but I appreciate these very good ideas. We have wandered into the middle of the woods and not come up with the rest of the stuff of the two things we already came up with. So I am rewinding the dial. God of Stone. We proposed a couple of different ideas. We know that people work those stone tools and that this spirit of stone is not mad about that. We have also said that we think it would be fun if the spirit of stone is against magic, which I think is cool. I like the idea that it is bad luck for a wizard to make a house out of stone because the spirit of the stone has a great revulsion for them. Catch you later, Jason. This was a great discussion, but you gotta go. Pleasure to have you. Catch you for our other stuff. Babbling and scrawling, a mad god young enough to not know what to do. Huge. So, the deity of stone. Not the deity. I'm stuck on that. The spirit of stone. I'm gonna have to write it. I'm gonna write it right in front of me. The spirit of stone. What's their deal? They hate magic. But they're willing to give up what they are. We need to characterize this because it's a little too weird right now. It doesn't make sense yet.
I think that this is the opposite of the water god. This spirit loves humanity. I think that it thinks it's interesting, it's cool, it's changing things. It's taking pieces of it, but making art out of it, new things that it didn't make. Weapons, sculptures, houses. It's all super interesting to this god. And so it wants mortals to thrive. But knowing that humans have taken that, the wizards, and done things like meld stone, they're cutting into it. It's not giving, it's not making, it's keeping and taking. So that's where that divide happens.
So this stone spirit loves the mortal world. It is this god of art and artifice and creation. And what it is disgusted by is this magical warping of the stone. It takes umbrage to that. You know what else I love about this? As civilization develops, this will become our Hephaestus, god of craft. I think that's really great. Stone giants are often described in various fantasy properties as great craftsmen. And so we can kind of lean on that. I love the idea that there are these great guardians that you have to be careful of. And they are the stone giants. You know, don't be disrespectful to the spirit of the stone, because it has guardians and they are mighty. I love it.
Don't dig too deep.
Dig not too deep beneath the ground and discover what even the spirit of stone does fear. Say it like a wizard and it instantly works. Now we have the spirit of lava. Now, we've also just made canonical that the stone spirit has people that worship it. That makes a lot of sense. So, you can't actually get really close to lava. It's fun to have a volcano city or whatever, but you would die so quick if you tried. Like, your villain lair built over the top of a volcano, you die from sulfur and smoke inhalation on arrival. Who's worshiping the spirit of lava enough that they're this high on the list, and how are they doing it?
Huge question.
So my number one early thought is that the spirit of lava gives the gift of being a fire genasi. Like, that's what they give you. They give you the ability to inhale smoke and eat flame, and that's like what they do. But that would mean to me that it's hard to do, right? The bigger the gift is, the harder it is to get it. So if we need to give them a magical gift that lets them be close to this spirit of lava, which is this impossible heat, how do you do that? And what does your family do when they're not Genasis yet? Those are the two questions I have. Do we have any early inclinations or answers?
My earliest inclination is this lava spirit leaves inactive volcanoes behind. After creating land that can be lived upon, it takes off from that volcano and goes to another location. So people can set up communities, live there. There might be some usable farmland around it that it leaves for that use and that purpose. And the best members of those groups can then be elevated to Fire Genasi and live in the active volcano.
So we have made something true that is crazy, that I love. Not opposed. So the gods, Ile and Yelia do not, maybe they project their forms into the world, but they are not here physically.
Oh, yeah.
But so what that means is the spirit of the ocean that hates mortals is a great leviathan that is alive and swims, and you can see it. It is this CR29 thing that has grown to hate, that has learned to despise. I love that. Which also means the spirit of the stone is not some vague representation of the earth. It gets up every now and again and moves. It travels and changes. It's legally distinct from the Tarrasque, but pretty similar. The spirit of lava makes a new volcano as it carves its path through the world. I think that's all fantastic. My only follow-up, so I think we're done with the lore that we need, right? They create these volcanoes and leave them dormant as they depart. People settle in the rich soil that is left behind by those volcanoes, and we have San Marzano tomatoes coming out of our ears. But I have a curiosity question. It wasn't that funny. But I have a curiosity question. What does it look like? Does something crawl out, of the volcano? Is it... My two first thoughts, number one is something like some big multi-armed lizard or something crawls out of the volcano and burrows into the ground somewhere else. And my other thought is this like impossibly massive figure that seems to be wading through the earth the way that you would wade through water up to like their hips or midsection. Just like carves its way through the world. And wherever it stops and rests for 100 years, a volcano appears. Those are my two, like, right off the dome picks. Spencer, what's up?
My first one was a big human-like creature, and then I realized this could be the progenitor of dragons in our world, and that's where you get Dragonborn. They have heat-resistant scales, they can live in these areas, etc.
I'm right.
So this is just a huge, massive, ancient red dragon, right? That lives in the lava and can emerge and then breathes that flame into the earth again and creates another pit for a volcano.
So this is a legally distinct fire worm that is great.
I love that idea.
Dragon.
It's a big guy. What's up?
Big scaly guy. I like your idea more than mine. I'll say it anyways.
Always, because it can always be something else. It can be a god,
sure.
it can be an angel, it can be a servant.
These things are always there. They're just not perceivable, except for sometimes, and it's almost like shimmers into existence. So, I don't know.
I love the idea of a spirit. I can't pour my drink. My mic peaked right when I started. It's the maddest I've ever been. I was like, I bet I can get away with this. And it went, bang.
Yeah.
So first of all,
the whole world heard
sorry,
you.
YouTube. My bad. Okay. So I like the idea that bare minimum, right? The great spirits of the seasons cannot be where one is, the others cannot be. So the thought that it is that as one like fades, they like into stardust, the other crawls in that moment born. I kind of like the idea almost of to go in line with what you were saying. I like the idea. My first thought is it is something that is unconstituted into a cloud and then reforms into something solid. That is the most visually understandable. My same concept that you have, less visually understandable, is they are a constellation that like returns to the stars and another falls, and that is the next one. And so the spirits of fall, because in our world we keep track of those seasons largely by the equinoxes, which are astrological events. So is it that, you know, this constellation of fall lands and is born and then ascends back into the sky as fall makes way for winter, when a new one topples and tumbles into the world, and that is Old Man Winter, represented in Star? Or is it a being that loosens and turns to dust and then re-solidifies?
I liked your pitch for the constellations because we have a tie-in for the Starborn there. We have at least some tenuous connection that we can throw in. So like those things land in the world, a Starborn is created each time they land. Maybe they have proclivities a la the Greek gods, or something else. But that's where the Starborn come from.
I think it's super
Writing
cool.
as fast as I can.
The only thought I was having with it all, and I like the constellations more, but the forming from cloud makes more sense for my idea, which sucks. But maybe we can still make it with constellation, because fall and winter, summer, spring are always different. You never know what you're really going to get each time these spirits come, and whatever form they take, it is a new one. It is a new thing of this.
Okay, so I like the firm line in the sand. Michael says, I think it works, but not for the seasons, you SOBs, and I think that's great. So what are the constellation gods instead? And then I think I know exactly what the seasons are. It's fucking the Ghost of Christmas Present. Old Man Winter dies. And a new spring is born. The god of spring turns old and dies, and a new summer is born. So they're different every time because they are fundamentally not the same creature. They die. and from those ashes, kind of a pseudo phoenix kind of thing. Michael, I think is what
Yeah.
I'm getting
Pretty
sideways
much.
from you.
Oh, and then you get like, oh, we had a terrible harvest this year. We have to hope for the next one to be
Yeah,
fair.
and whatever that, and you know it's going to be a bad harvest because you see the spirit and it is meek and just just not hardy.
Mhm,
I,
you're
I
like,
Or-
like
"Ah."
I like the idea that there are those in the world who, you know, when you're talking to old, when you have the same people whose job is it in A Song of Ice and Fire to say winter is coming, the same like 60-plus-year-old person from Starktown, would in this setting say, it is better to have a cruel god of spring than a meek one. A harsh time with full bellies is easier than thin times. Like, I love that. I think that's fun. Okay, so yeah, it is this like cycle of death and birth with the spirit. We have to be careful. Spirit of the seasons, god of magic. Spirit of fire, god of lighting fires. Right? There is a distinction. A mortal with sentience and will needs to get a hand on the ball for it to be a god. Seasons are whether mortals are or are not. So it is it is a great and powerful spirit that is born again in a cycle of eternal birth and death, which kicks ass. I'm not giving up my constellation thing. Who
No,
is
the
that?
constellation idea is awesome.
Who is that though? What do they do?
Constellation. The first thing I think of when I think constellations is wayfinding. It's directions. It's compassing, right? So that's my first thought. Is this would be a god of directions that's point in the world is through the constellations.
But why does he fall, Master Wayne?
That was the big question.
Why does he fall,
I don't
Master Wayne?
know.
It's not just to get back up.
No.
I have the extremely stupid thought that it is somebody who falls out of the sky. Like whoopsie daisy. Does our wait a minute. Does our trickster god fall out of the sky and then get tossed back into it by some god of law? Do we have two warring gods, a god of trickery and a god of law, and the god of trickery falls from the sky, like escapes his prison
Finally.
and does trickery
Yeah.
shit for a while, and then the god of law fully just throws him back into the stars every once in a while?
All right. I can work with this. They are. So I love it being the trickery god. When the trickery god is about the seasonal spirits do not come. It is just as that's why the god of law needs to bring him back
To reset things in the proper motion.
Okay, why doesn't the world die? That's my only question, and that's not as serious as it sounds. Why doesn't everything die when that happens?
I think that the problem is solved quick enough that everything doesn't die, right? Within a year, the god of law goes, oh, things aren't changing fast enough. Grabbed, thrown. But in that year, a lot of weird shit can happen because the trickster god's on the plane.
Okay. Interrupt seasons. I like it. Why does it interrupt the seasons? What about the god of trickery's presence makes it so that the seasons cannot turn on their great and mighty wheel? What about his presence? What did he do?
Yeah, what did he take? What did he hide?
Does
Did he take a piece of their divinity? Does he have of their like spirit? Does he have it, and that's why? Well, no. Wait a minute. That's not how gods work.
he is all right. He doesn't. Oh, all right. Instead of the world just being, it stays in whatever season it is for until he's gone. He makes timeless everything, so that's why the season doesn't change because that spirit dies. He makes it so that spirit cannot die. He makes it so a lot of things cannot die.
It's interesting, but such a hard
It's
move.
interesting, but it's gonna fuck the world up. So, Michael, you're picking.
Yeah.
I love
I'm
the idea.
sorry.
But what happens if someone gets stabbed that year?
Maybe it doesn't go to like
You're
mortals.
creating an intersection where we cannot have an adventure at the same time as this event, right? Where it is
Yeah.
pure set dressing. And I like the idea that he steals something. I like the idea that he steals time or life, or maybe he steals the next season. Do we skip a season when he is around?
Here's what I think. He comes down to the world, and the current season dies through his proximity to this place. He then becomes whatever that god was, right? So if it was spring, he is now the god of spring while he's on the plane. Nothing else can be born because he's taken over the cowl. So until he gets sent back away, it can't restart.
I'm afraid that we have put too many hats on this and that we need to cut back a
We're
little
gonna
bit.
back out.
I
All right.
I just don't I like the concept, but again, I'm like, what does that it's too heady. It's like, oh, he takes over the god of the spring. And I'm like, okay, so the trickery god is also the trickery god takes over the spirit of the spring. And now he's the trickery god of spring, and summer won't come because the spring trickery god is here. This is now
We'll
a
back
nine-step
out.
lore. I think we just need to reel.
Okay.
We just need to take a couple of steps back. We had two good central ideas. We had one that Michael really likes, which is great, and then we had the baseline idea, which is great. The trickery god falls out of the sky. Something happens with the seasons, and so the trickery god, please somebody go to Jockey Music and make him play something so that it doesn't mess up our ideas. And then the trickery god gets thrown back into the sky. We are trying to solve this big. Let's just solve it small. What did the trickery god do to make the spirit of spring afraid? That's all we need to answer. The spirits of the seasons are afraid of the god of trickery, and I like the idea that a season not moving for a year, totally fine. And it doesn't need to be that he like steals it and kills them, right? What did he do to make it so that those spirits hide, right? The spirit of winter goes low to ground when the god of trickery is present. What did he do?
Do we want to make him do some sort of illusory magic that causes fear?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's either illusory magic or there used to be a fifth season.
Yeah, there used to be a fifth season. I was thinking that before, like, but what could it be? We'd have to pitch, a solid season. Or the last time he was here, or 10 times ago that he was here and they were there, he convinced the spirit of winter or etc. to stay. He just said, hey, I can make you live longer. Do you want that? And they said yes. So now they have a compact that they will not come back to the world lest they be tricked into holding their position for longer than they should.
So
right?
I'll remember when there was a winter that lasted 2 years.
And they were like, we can't do it again. If he shows up that season, you kill yourself. You hide until you die naturally, whatever it is, and we're not going back until the god of law fixes it. And then we'll go back. So it's stuck in whatever that is until the god handles it. But the risk is he gives you like a potion of immortality. And you're just there forever until you get slain by some random thing 10 years later and things are ruined.
James
So it's like, nope.
James has said he convinced the god once, the god of spring once, that the sky was falling. I love that. So basically, at some point in the past, he tricked the god of seasons and endangered the world. And the god of seasons knows they can't resist them, and so they stay away. And so you get these moments where, it's like one of the things is you need to hunt down the god of trickery so that he can be cast back into the stars before summer goes too long. I think that is a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, and gets us there with a little bit less baggage on the way.
I agree.
Boom.
Interrupt the seasons. Stole/tricked once. I'm gonna have to say it. If they always fall for his tricks, I think the spirit of seasons in its many forms is in love with the god of trickery.
Yeah.
And so it is,
Yeah.
I know I cannot resist his tricks, because even when I know he is lying, I'm interested in what he will do. So all I can do is stay away. All I can do is bury my head in the sand and go, no, I can't hear you. Absolutely rock solid. We got 10 more minutes. So we wandered off into God creation a little bit, but I think we can salvage. I think we can put our pieces back together, right? The Spirit of Stone has a place where they are worshipped. It is where they are. Terra Moog is a place. We have this dragonborn community that worships the places where the Spirit of Lava has tread, not necessarily where the Spirit of Lava is. We have the Spirit of Seasons that dies again and is born again, and they are worshipped by many across the world and have some great city carved into 4 great pieces. Not great city. They have some town or holy site cut into 4 pieces, 1 for each season. And then we have the God of Trickery. And the God of Trickery's return to the world from the sky is maybe eagerly awaited. Maybe there is a sense of comedy and joy to his presence. Right? Because if it's reliable, if the Spirit of Seasons, if the God of Trickery arrives and we get a few extra months and it's fun, and then we all get to watch the God of Law cast him back into the sky and it's fun, then it's probably kind of a joy. And it's a little bit Groundhog. Like, it's a little bit, what season will we have 6 extra months of, right? It's a little bit of, will there be more winter or will there be more spring? And I think that's central, nice, and I like it. I think it's good, and it gives us a reason for people to worship the God of Trickery, which is, it is consistent enough that it is fun. If he occasionally stayed for 9 years and all the plants started to die, it wouldn't be fun.
No.
Okay, months long, sort of a festival. I like that. And
then you get to have his domain add in something like performance.
Yeah,
right?
Great.
That's easy.
And he is only gone as long as it takes for the stars to return to the orientation they were in, right? He is cast up, and then the stars must be in that position again, and then he falls. And that is trackable. You know how long that takes. So every
you got the Farmer's
years,
Almanac.
Yeah, every 5 years, he is brought into the world for 3 to 6 months. It depends on how long it takes the God of Law to track him down.
Question. I know we have our star children, our Asmirs. Could this be the star that they flew in on?
Oh yeah, God of Trickery be fucking like that's right on the tin for sure.
Now the question is, did they actually fall with the star with him, or do they just say that as sort of like a nice way of saying we know who your dad is?
We fell with the God of Trickery from the stars. Wink. Or is it we fell, like there was a great crater and we emerged from it? Or is it we emerged from him in a way and we try to make it sound nice and not nasty?
Michael, what's your take?
I think it's cool having a crater that they, like, the first Asmirs fell from him from this star coming.
I think I'm down with that. That just means we have to split it. It's unrelated to the God of Trickery then. Because it makes no sense for there's no reason for the God of Trickery falling to make creatures appear in its base. So I think either a star fell and the Starborn were first brought to this world, or the God of Trickery gets nasty. And it sounds like we don't want the God of Trickery to get nasty.
I like the idea of the God of Trickery getting nasty, but that's where we get like tieflings.
Okay, great.
That's easy.
We just
boom.
Okay, cool. Oof. We have 6 minutes left. We have magic, spirit, God. So we've really outlined this section. We're at 6.
That's pretty good.
Which isn't too bad. And the God of Law having followers is great. There's a trope in fantasy that I refuse to abandon because it is my favorite. I'm just going to call it the God of Law's name is Paladin, and it is where we will eventually get the term paladin from. Paladin meaning like child of Paladin or something like that. So
perfect.
We've got all of those things. I think that is a nice sort of built-up civilization spread there. It's 6 to 6, which makes me think we should come up with more, but we certainly can't come up with more with 5 minutes on the clock. Yep. So, I think we have a choice. Do we want to try to pencil in 2 more in 5 minutes, or do we want to do a bit and bid this session farewell?
I think that we can pencil in 2 more in 5 minutes. Let's burn through it.
So we're
Right now
two
our
more.
balance
What
is
do we need?
spirit, 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 God, God, arcane. So we need at least, I would say, one more God and one more spirit.
Okay.
So we have our god of script.
But
We have
if the god of script is not associated with the Terra Moog, then he is not a mid-term god. He is a low term, and we're gonna get to him next time.
I was thinking of him being like the biggest of the arcane gods.
I think what you've just said is cannot exist. I think you've just said something
We
that
don't
cannot
have
be
an
true.
arcane
There
god.
there is no big arcane god
So,
because I think there is
yes.
only one, and he is only half formed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So my question is very simple: does Terra Moog worship the first scribe, or is there a new chapter that has weighed their arcane beliefs in a divine belief? It's just one of those two. Either the Wizards of Terra Moog have begun to hear whisperings of a god in the lava and in their channeling and in their chants, or there is a new cult that worships a new deity of magic who is just being born. Which of those
I
two
think
is
a
true?
new cult, I think, is where I'm going to go with it.
All right, I will make a note then that we have this low tier, mid. No, he's low tier magic god.
F tier.
Scribes. I love it. So, we need a god. We need a spirit. We have 3 minutes.
God and a spirit. So the what are we missing in a world like this? This like paleontological space.
We have
What's just a clear miss?
we have the god of hearth and home. We have the god of fire and war. We have the god of trickery. We have the god of law. If
We don't have love is hearth and home, so I'm going to take that back. Go ahead.
I don't think that's true. Hearth and
You don't
home
think
is
so?
being buds and building a house. Love is love and passion and devotion and many more complicated feelings than I'm gonna light a fire, let's all eat soup.
I feel this is more of a humanist standpoint that it is the same in a real way, where it's like you wouldn't spend time with these people if you didn't love them. You wouldn't build homes for them. You wouldn't look out for each other if you didn't have love for your common man. But that's just it depends on how many gods we're gonna have.
Yeah. I guess the
That's it.
question is, my only counterpoint, and I do not feel strongly about this, I just feel the need to say it, is you can invite someone you do not like to eat with you.
Yeah, I got
Is that love, or is that an awareness that we need each other to survive? I think we shouldn't do God of Love because gods of love are usually kind of yucky unless you can handle them very carefully, and odds are we can't. So
not in our stream format.
let's jog off into the wilderness on here. My first thought is God of Luck. What is Michael about to say?
God of travel. I think Paleon times it's nomadic in a sense sometimes.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because we want there to be people that travel all around, so stories and nonsense can be given around. I think that's cool.
Spencer said it a few minutes ago. The Pathfinder.
Yeah.
The walker of the first road. Huge.
Mhm.
The first step.
Which step
The
is
god of the
most
first step, so good.
huge?
The next step.
It's not the first step. Just the next. Huge. So we have Pathfinder, the god of the next step, and he has worshippers, and they are nomadic, and they travel the world communing with the others, and that is how many of our places that do not have magic stay in communication with each other. Congratulations, we've solved the biggest problem with our world. Let's go.
Huge. Huge.
Now we need a spirit.
I think Spirit of Luck could be kind of cool.
Is luck
Yeah, the
natural?
spirit of luck.
Does luck exist separate of humanity? The
I think
conception
it
of luck?
does. I feel like, you know, a dog in the wilderness, a wolf, I suppose, in the wilderness, finding a recently killed and left behind rabbit is lucky. It doesn't need to go
Mhm.
hunting for it. It goes, this is a nice surprise, and
Yeah.
it'll eat that rabbit.
I just
That's luck.
This ember hit this tree, not this tree. That tree got lucky.
I associate luck with superstition, and it occurs to me that I don't need to.
Yeah.
That's something I
There's
do.
luck.
That is a baggage I bring. I think of those as the same, and they fundamentally aren't. Luck exists beyond your rabbit's foot, right? There is the chance of whether things go well or poorly. Spirit of luck.
Yeah. So that's that one kind of cooks itself, right? You've got chance, luck, good luck, bad luck. It's covering all those.
We're at 9:31. Next session, I'm going to do the same thing I did in Prospect, and I'm going to make you guys tell me if there are planes and what they're like. And it's going to take, I'm going to say a conservative amount of time. Wait a minute. Spirit of the Whispering Wind. How dare you? How dare you throw that in here when we're
During
about
the
to hang
sign
up
off.
I will say there can't be planes. This is prehistory. Planes have to fly and use metal.
Get out of here. So, something has obviously become true in this moment because we already had canon because of this fantastic chatter that Sears discovered the sort of lines of magic. So the Spirit of the Whispering Winds gave the Seers their sight for the first time, and is probably reviled by some of the other spirits for their hubris. I think there are some that think that it is a great boon, right? The Spirit of Stone thinks that they are a charitable and kind soul, but the Spirit of Fire, the Spirit of Lava, finds them foolish. Why would you give them the sight? They are not ready, right? This
is the Prometheus. This is the giver of flame.
The Spirit of the Whispering Wind, whose body was killed for the sin of giving sight to man for the first time.
And now you can only hear whispers. Yeah.
It's just it's right there.
It's right there.
All that was left. They were so completely destroyed. All that was left was their voice. Come on, it's right there. Okay, with that, we are going to sign off after, I think, a wildly successful first session. Okay. All of our shows at TTRP Guy on YouTube and Twitch start at 7:30-ish. Sometimes we start at 7:40, a few minutes late. That's usually because we're quickly getting together and being like, what are we talking about today? It's never usually too long. Keep an eye out for streams starting soon. Somebody recently told us we need to keep those short, and so we are endeavoring to make that true as well. Our Sunday stream starting at 7:30 is Game Masters, Masters of Games, which is Michael's stream. We're trying to beat the Elden Ring DLC right now.
We're on the last boss.
We're at the last boss, and if you know about the last boss, you know why we're still there. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. Last Monday, you would have caught scheduling conflicts. My show. Thank you for the subscription.
Thank you.
That means my headphones are about to punch me in the face.
Go ahead and
I almost had it. It wasn't quite fast enough. Tune into The Party Makes Things Worse on Mondays at 7:30. We're playing Spencer's really fun Monster of the Week campaign right now, The Prince of Charming. That has been an absolute blast. And on Tuesdays, today's stream, starting at 7:30 till usually about 9:30 or 10, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with a bunch of nonsense live and trying to integrate as much as we can from what people recommend. Absolutely check us out on TikTok and YouTube. Spencer puts great stuff out on there. We just posted one of our first mid-length videos, which we're very excited about. I'm still waiting on the 3-hour video essay. I'm going to bring it up every stream until Spencer's bullied into doing it. And of course, check us out on Drive-Thru RPG. We only have one thing up there for now. The Lich's Dollhouse, a level 1 adventure that we had a lot of fun planning out on stream and then turning into something that we could publish. Soon, Void's Eye Observatory, which we're very excited by. That is off on the horizon. And then a big project sometime in the next 10 years.
It's in the chamber. It's
sometime
ready.
in that window. We have another thing coming. That's all I've got. You guys ready to sign off?
Yes, like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. If you didn't get enough time to watch this one, watch back on the VOD, share it with your friends, and thank you for tuning in.
Peace out.
Bye.